Cool. All right. Well, welcome to Super Mark V's live stream about the Pink Ribbon Racing Indotech Motorsports Mark V Supra Time Attack car. We are bringing this car to Global Time Attack Finals this weekend at Buttonwillow Raceway. So I'm just going to do a quick walk around and show you the kind of stuff we have on the car. And you can always go to Super Mark V or my channel, Nick Romano Racing, to look at more details about how these parts went in and why we're using them and that sort of thing. But we'll start right here with this corner. So if you look in here, the brake looks stock, but we have our counter space garage, very high temp racing brake pads in there, which you also have in the front end. If you look deeper in, you can see we have AFE control adjustable sway bars, and we've got those front and rear, and that's going to help us to have adjustability to the roll stiffness of the car. So if the car is understeering a little bit or oversteering a little bit, we can adjust that and make sure we're getting as much corner speed out of the car as possible. The coilovers, or in the back, is technically not a coilover. It's a separate shock and spring, but they are KW Club Sport shocks, and then with a separate spring with custom rates on them. Again, we picked the motion ratio, we picked the bounce frequency we wanted the car to have, and then matched the spring rates to that, and then had to adjust a little bit from there to get the balance just perfect. But after the testing last weekend at Buttonwillow, the car's driving awesome. So I'm really, really happy with the way it handles between those rates and the sway bars, and of course the KW Club Sport shocks. We have SPL parts links in both the front and rear. For a bunch of these arms, pretty much everything except for the lower control arm, because that has the spring cup, so we need to retain that at least for now. And that helps to give a lot of adjustability in places that from OEM you don't have it, and also eliminates a lot of the rubber bushings. So it helps stiffen the car up a little bit and gives it more feedback for the driver, and also make sure whatever alignment you put on the car is going to more or less stay there, even though we're putting these high G loads on the car while we're going through corners, especially with high grip tires, especially with a lot of downforce. Which brings me to our rear wing setup. So right here, we have a fully custom built chassis mount for our rear wing. This comes from G-Stream. This is the prototype. There is going to be a version of this for sale at some point as well. And this uses factory mounts. Well, I should say factory bolt holes to mount this onto. And all we had to do is cut little strips in the hatch. And as I pull this down, you can see it's going to go right over the mount. And then the wing stands bolt there, and then the wing is going to be right there. And the wing's right there. So not great for street use because you do have to take the wing off if you want to open your hatch. But there will be a version available from G-Stream that you can just bolt onto the hatch like the other ones on the market. This is our wing. It's a two-dimensional single foil carbon with these really awesome stands with I love these turnbuckle adjusters because it's really simple, really quick and easy to adjust the angle of attack or the AOA on the wing. So that's super nice. This thing's very, very effective. We put this on the car. We tested it for one session. We didn't have the splitter on the car yet, and it took a car that was brilliantly balanced and turned it into an insane understeer machine, which sounds bad, but it's actually a good thing because that means that this was incredibly effective. And then when we put the splitter on the front, that balanced it out, and it was just incredibly grippy everywhere. But yeah, really effective wing, very efficient wing too. That's one of the best things about it, is that it's very efficient, so you get a lot of downforce without a ton of drag penalty. Now you can see we're working on the livery right now. We're just sort of taping bits of the livery to the car before we go ahead and do the final stick down of them. Up here you can see we have our StopTech big brake kit. This is a 380 mil rotor with a 6-piston fixed aluminum caliper, again with the counter space garage racing brake pads in there. And then you can see the KW Club Sport coilovers up there as well. These ones actually are coilovers because the coil is over the shock. Then we've got SPL links here as well. It's a strut, so it's just a lower arm, and then the sway bar end link are from SPL. And then the AFE control sway bars up there as well. Further to the front, we've got our custom-made splitter. This is a carbon honeycomb core, weighs about 7 or 8 pounds. It's very, very lightweight, but also very strong. And then this is our air dam, which we're still trimming it up to fit perfectly, and that'll bolt on in place and take up the gap because the splitter is lower down than the bumper is. So you need to take up that gap, otherwise the splitter will do absolutely nothing except create drag. On the top of the hood, we have our track spec hood vents, and that's to get as much heat out of the engine bay as possible. Also underneath there, the engine's totally stock. The only thing we've changed is it's got a flex fuel kit on it and also a catless downpipe. And that will help us to get a little more power out of the car, but mostly it's for heat management. because the catalytic converter will generate a whole bunch of heat and it just radiates into the engine bay. And the problem with these Mark V Supras is that the intake manifold has the intercooler built into it and it's pretty small. So they tend to heat soak if you're driving on track for too long. And when you start adding more power to the car, that problem exacerbates. So by eliminating that catalytic converter, we let the exhaust flow freely through it and we don't heat soak the engine bay quite as badly. So that's, between that and this, we haven't really had any issues with intake temperature. So that's great, that's working really well. That's the only engine mod we have is the E85 with the Ecutech tune, and which is also from Counterspace Garage. And the catless downpipe, we think we're probably making between 400 and 430 horsepower. We've never dynoed the car, that's just an estimate based off of what some other cars are making with similar modifications. Maybe someday we'll dyno it, but eventually we'd also like to get a bigger turbo in there and bigger fuel pump and actually make some bigger power numbers. But for now, this will have to do for this weekend. Inside the car, you can see we've got on the driver's side a full containment Sparco bucket seat. And then on the passenger side, we put in the lightest bucket seat we had access to, just to try to get some weight off of the car. There's a custom half cage in the back from Mobile Weld Specialist. So that is welded to the chassis. And you can see we've got our AIM Smarty Cam mounted to that, as well as our AIM data dash, which is exactly to the right of the, what is that called? Rear view mirror. And that's really the only thing we've done inside the car is the cage and the data systems and the seats. Steering wheel is stock, everything else in there is stock. So we've pretty much just thrown this car together in about a month. It's sort of an experiment to see how quick we can make this car go without having a whole bunch of crazy modifications. We're doing basically just bolt-ons, but we're trying to do them right. So we're being really specific about spring rates, the sway bar rates, the shock tuning, and all that kind of stuff, and just trying to see how far we can take this platform with bolt-ons like that pretty much everybody can get. And then we'll save the crazy stuff for next season. So there you go. That is the Pink Ribbon Racing Indotech Motorsports Mark V Supra. Check us out this weekend at GTA Finals. That will be live streamed as well from their channel, so you can see how we stack up with the competition. Yeah, thanks for watching.